When a marriage ends, the silence that follows can be, well, pretty deafening. But what if the most important conversations you could ever have happen after all the papers are signed? Today, we're going to dig into this really challenging but I think vital idea of finding real understanding and clarity long after the outcome's already been decided. Okay, let's just sit with this for a second. This quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This isn't about trying to save a relationship that's already over. No way. It's about saving your own understanding of what happened, you know? It's about finding some solid ground of truth to stand on so you can actually move forward. A conversation can be too late to change the past, for sure, but it might be right on time to change your future. So let's talk about these conversations that happen after the end. The whole point here is to reframe them. These talks aren't a tool to try and get back together. Instead, think of them as a path toward genuine understanding. It's a tough road, for sure, but it's one that can turn all that lingering confusion into some pretty meaningful insight. And this whole idea really comes from a personal experience. The source material talks about having these brutally honest conversations after the divorce was final. And they served a very, very specific purpose, not to rewrite the ending of the story, but to finally read the missing pages, to understand the relationship from a place of acceptance, not desperation. Huge difference. Think about it. When all the pressure to fix things is finally off the table, a totally different kind of truth can start to come out. So now, we're going to look at the powerful, specific insights you can get when two people can finally speak without that fear of ending the relationship. Because, well, it's already ended. Right here, this is basically a map of what got clarified. Instead of that vague feeling of, it just didn't work out, these conversations were able to pinpoint the exact fractures. They showed exactly where needs were being ignored, where the communication just stopped, and where fear built up these massive walls. It's like turning a confusing fog into a crystal clear picture of what actually went down. But of course, not every ending follows that path. So now we have to pivot to the other journey, the one that's way more damaging. This is what happens when a divorce uncovers some long-term deception or critical information that was held back for years. We're not talking about a simple misunderstanding here. This is a fundamental betrayal of reality itself. And this slide really lays out two completely different emotional worlds. On one side, you've got the pain of a breakup, but at least you have a foundation of honesty to start rebuilding from. But on the other side, the ground you thought you were standing on just vanishes. The emotional impact is so severe, and the path forward needs something much, much deeper than just moving on. This brings us to a really crucial distinction. We hear the word closure thrown around all the time, right? As if it's this neat little door you can find and just shut behind you. But what if that's not the right goal? We're going to challenge that idea and suggest we should be aiming for something way more powerful and, frankly, more achievable. So let's break down this idea of closure. It's often sold to us as this, magical state where the pain just disappears and the memories are all neatly filed away. But that's a myth. It actually puts this weird pressure on us to just forget or push down what happened. And that is not what true healing looks like. So if not closure, then what? Well, this is where clarity comes in. See, clarity isn't about forgetting, it's about understanding. It's the ability to look back at the past, even the really painful parts, and see it for what it truly was. That understanding, that's the real foundation for healing and for moving forward as your authentic self. Okay, so if clarity is the goal, especially when you're dealing with the fallout from deception, what does the healing process actually require? It's not a solo mission, and it's definitely not about just forcing yourself to be okay. It demands something from the situation itself. And here's the crucial point. Healing from a wound this deep is not a passive activity. It has to start by fully acknowledging the emotional impact, how much it hurt. Then, it demands accountability, a real recognition of the harm that was done. And so often, it requires getting professional support to help you navigate the trauma and begin to rebuild a sense of trust in the world and in yourself. And that really leaves us with a final thought to reflect on. Whether you're navigating the end of a relationship or maybe a job or even a friendship, what would it mean to seek clarity instead of just closure? What would it actually look like to aim for real understanding, even when it's hard, as your truest path forward? Thanks so much for digging into this with me. Just a reminder, of course, that the ideas we've talked about are for reflection. If you're navigating these kinds of difficult issues yourself, please remember that professional support can be an absolutely invaluable resource.